Another week, boys, and another review. And this time, it's the next phase of the new Hyakkiyako units, as Kikyou's and Renge's banners are finally arriving in Blue Archive's newest update next Tuesday. So, as usual, here is a short review of our two new units. We're starting off with the Hyakkiyako master tactician and Kazusa's love rival, it's Kiryu Kazuma. Wait, no, it's Kiryu Kikyou. She is a cute, clingy kudere cat girl who has a cool halo design and a deep affection for Sensei, joining the repertoire of cat girls in love with him. So it's no wonder many senseis became fans of her when she released. But the real winners here are my wife Kayoko, cause that's another cat ready to be catnapped for her collection, and Kayoko fans like me, cause hey, more Kayoko fan art. She is a Sonic support striker who has heavy armor, who has the following terrain moves: S in urban, B in field, and D in indoors. She is also one of the few support units to use a mostly DPS equipment set. Kikyou's 5-cost EX skill decreases the enemy's defense for 30 seconds while dealing damage to them, all in a cross-shaped area. Meanwhile, every 35 seconds, her basic skill helps increase all ally Sonic effectiveness in a round-shaped area for 25 seconds, excluding herself. And the buff's power increases based on the number of units that are affected. Her enhanced skill increases her attack, and with her sub-skill, she increases her attack again for 20 seconds every 30 seconds, while accumulating a Furin Kazan stack. If you use her EX when she has 3 Furin Kazan stacks, which is the maximum amount that she can hold, she consumes all Furin Kazan stacks to reduce the cost of all allies' next EX skill by 1, again excluding herself. At UE40, her enhanced skill plus improves her debuff retention stat, and her urban combat power upgrades from S to SS at UE50. Kikyou is one of the strongest and most useful purple units, due to the amount of utility in her kit. Firstly, she is able to reduce the defense of multiple enemies with her EX, as it has the advantage of being an AoE attack while dealing quite decent damage. It's similar to Kasumi's, though it deals more damage, has a slightly higher cost, and her defense shred values are unfortunately a little lower even at max level. But having another unit who is able to apply AoE defense break is always welcome. It also has a nice and unique shape to it, by the way. Not only that, Kikyou is also able to provide a bit of cost support, since she can reduce your unit's EX skill cost by 1. However, it takes too long to activate, aka around 90 seconds. Cause she only gains 1 Furin Kazan stack every 30 seconds, and she needs 3 stacks for the cost reduction to proc. You do the math. So I personally wouldn't rely on this too much, as it is just something that's nice to have since it can be useful. Finally, Kikyou is currently the only Sonic unit who is able to increase your entire team's purple effectiveness with her basic skill, and this is her biggest asset. Similar to other units like New Year Kayoko, Swimsuit Hoshino, and Swimsuit Ui, all of whom are also weakness buffers of other damage types, Kikyou is extremely vital in purple content, as she can greatly boost your Sonic unit's purple damage. And this is especially useful for Sonic heavy hitters like Swimsuit Hanako, Ichika, and Yukari, cause it massively increases their damage output. Not to mention, while her Sonic effectiveness buff values aren't as high as other weakness buffers, it still has a pretty good multiplier of 40% at max level, if it affects 3 or more allies. Plus again, she is the only unit so far who can provide the Sonic effectiveness buff, so it's better than nothing. Though the only downside to this is that it is on her basic skill, meaning you can't manually activate it, and as such, you'll have to plan around it. Like I mentioned, Kikyou is a pivotal unit for purple content such as purple joint firing drills, and mainly the Kuro Kage raid, where she is a key student for your teams, especially on insane and torment difficulties. With her EX skill being an AoE attack, she is able to damage as well as plant individual defense debuffs on Kuro Kage and its multiple fragments to reduce his high defense. She can also occasionally decrease your team's EX skill cost, which is helpful for units with expensive EX costs like Yugari. Her main role in this raid though is to significantly increase your Sonic student's damage with the Sonic effectiveness buff from her basic skill. This is very useful for DPS units like Kasumi, Ichika, Yugari, and especially swimsuit Hanako, who becomes an absolute powerhouse monster when partnered with Kikyou, since the purple effectiveness buff will massively elevate her already high damage, allowing her to easily put down the bad dog. Other than that, you could also potentially use Kikyou in blue content, mainly for her cost support and defense break capabilities. But personally, I've not seen anyone use her for that in those content. Overall, Kikyou is a really strong Sonic student who can greatly improve your purple unit's damage output with her Sonic effectiveness buff, provide cost support using her sub skill, and shred multiple enemies' defense on her EX. Thus, in my opinion, all these make her a must-pull unit, especially if you want to take on any purple content, whether it be Kurokage or any other upcoming purple raids, since she will make them much easier to get through, unless of course the devs decide to introduce a better Sonic effectiveness buffer. You could also pull for her if she's your waifu, or if you're secretly Kayoko and you have a huge love for cats. On the other hand, while Kikyou is hyped up by myself and others to be a really competent unit, which she is, you may also skip her for the following reasons. First, you don't care about doing purple content. You don't plan on doing Kurokage Insane or Torment, in which case you can just borrow her from your clubmates. You don't have enough paroxysms to pull for her, and you want to save up for other units since Kikyou is unlimited, in which case again just borrow her. Or you plan to pull for Himari instead, who is rerunning in a few weeks, which I highly recommend you do if you don't have our Tensai Bishoujo Hakka, cause she's the best attack buffer in the game that is used literally everywhere, and is even more important than Kikyou, who is only really used in purple content. But ultimately, the choice to pull or skip Kikyou is up to you and your circumstances. If you want to succeed in Kurokage, especially the higher difficulties, then she is definitely a must pull. But if those reasons to skip her that I mentioned earlier apply to you, then just save your paroxysms for Himari or whatever other upcoming unit that you prefer. But I have to ask, are you a Kikyou girlfriend or Kazusa girlfriend type of person? Next up is Renge, who has one of the armpits of all time, and is one of the more low-key sexier characters in the game with that slightly revealing outfit. Ma'am, those side boobs look delicious. Also, it's such a shame that she's not as popular because she has one of the best designs in the game in my opinion. I love the dragon aesthetic with the red markings on her hand and her leg, that giant red tail, the single horn on her head that makes her look even more badass, her cool looking halo, like I said, that absolutely sexy outfit, those crimson eyes, and as a hair connoisseur, I have to appreciate that messy, bushy red ponytail, as it is one of my favorite hair designs among all the students. I just think her entire design rocks, and I'm in love with the whole Red Dragon team that she's got. And heck, I'll come out and say it. Design and character wise, I prefer Renge over Kikyou. She appeals to me more, I'll leave it at that. Renge is a Sonic DPS striker who equips heavy armor, and she has the same terrain moods as Kikyou. She's great in urban terrains, average in field, and bad indoors. Like most DPS units, she also rocks the standard DPS equipment set. Renge has a 3-cost EX skill where she launches Scorched Earth operations. Wait, wrong game. Where she inflicts the burn debuff on enemies in a fan-shaped area, which continuously damages the enemies every 4 seconds over a period of 20 seconds. With her basic skill, which activates every 30 seconds, she gains the Zeal buff, and her attack is increased for 22 seconds. Her enhanced skill further boosts her attack, and with her sub-skill, the Zeal buff comes into play, as it allows her to deal a bit of additional damage to enemies if she has this buff. Her enhanced skill is elevated to its plus version at UE40, giving her extra crit damage. And at UE50, similar to Kikyou, her urban combat power improves from S to SS. There's not much to talk about Renge. She is primarily a good, reliable purple DPS whose main purpose is to continuously pump out damage. She is able to do so as firstly, her EX is fairly strong, as it is cheap and has a solid multiplier of 500% at max level, while being able to dish out decent dot damage. Not only that, she also has a bunch of passive self-buffs that will further enhance her attacking capabilities, i.e. her basic and her enhanced skill. Finally, the Zeal effect that she gains from her basic skill will also increase her damage output, since she can deal additional damage when she has it. However, she is unfortunately not fit to be the team's main hyper carry, as she doesn't have the firepower to do so, but rather, like I said, she focuses on dealing continuous damage, meaning she's more suitable to be a sub DPS, used alongside another damage dealer. With all that being said, Renge is obviously best used in purple content, mainly the Kurokage raid, where her role is pretty simple, to just consistently deal damage using her EX and normal attacks, especially when she's feeling zealous. Nothing fancy, very straightforward, and you can use her in one of your Torment teams. However, despite being a solid unit for this raid, she doesn't actually see much use, cause she is easily replaceable by other purple DPS units, who can pump out higher damage and offer extra utility. Renge could also potentially be used in blue content cause she will deal 1.5 times damage against blue armored enemies. But she probably won't be your first choice, and you'd be better off using other mystic units instead. Overall, while Renge is a reliable and efficient Sonic DPS, I have to recommend skipping her, since for one, she isn't as strong as other purple DPS students whom you can use instead if you have them. Furthermore, her banner is featured alongside Kikyou's, who is way more essential for purple content. So, out of the two, in terms of gameplay, I would advise foregoing Renge's banner and focusing your paroxysms on Kikyou. Finally, there are a bunch of other upcoming units, like Himari, which I mentioned earlier, who are of a higher priority. Thus, this is another incentive for you to skip Renge, but you may still pull for her if you need another Sonic DPS and have the paroxysms to spare, or if she is your waifu and you're a huge fan of her design like I am, or you're an armpit enthusiast and you want to lick those sweaty armpits in her L2D. And that's all for this week's review. All in all, in terms of gameplay, while Renge is an easy skip, I would definitely recommend pulling for Kikyou, especially if you want to have an easier time in Kurokage as well as future purple content, cause I believe she will continue to be an essential unit in any other upcoming purple modes. But at the end of the day, it is entirely up to you whether to pull or not. Anyways, let me know who you're pulling for if you are. Good luck with your pulls, and I'll see y'all in the next one.